Hey, good morning. Scott Luton, Greg White, and Karin Bursa here with you on Supply Chain. Now, welcome to today's live stream. Greg, how we doing?
Great. I had to do that's kind of double piece, right? Since there's three of us, not two to start. So doing great. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Corinne, welcome.
Thank you, Greg. It's good to be here. Scott, thanks for having me. I don't have a hand signal introduction, but I will say welcome to all the supply chain movers and shakers. And it's great to be with you and Scott here on the buzz today.
So, Corinne, I'm gonna pass along one that you can just make all your own. It's from all the trucker community. Live long and prosper.
Oh yeah,
So
hey,
feel free to
feel
free to use
I'm
that.
definitely. I've got the Trekkie in me from
Is that
childhood.
Yeah, is it thumb out or
You caught me.
Thumb doesn't really matter. I don't. It
doesn't. Okay.
It's usually.
And just right then, with just the last 35 seconds, that's the most we've ever spoken about Star Trek in any one show in supply chain out history. So
You're welcome, supply chain practitioners.
and you know what? In some corner of our global audience, we're letting some folks down that we don't talk more about the supply chain and business part of Star Trek. But hey, I
Probably
digress.
right. Yeah.
Today, Greg and Corinne, is the TekTok edition of the Supply Chain Buzz, where we share some of the leading stories across global business. Many of you will know TekTok Digital Supply Chain Podcast, hosted by Karin Bursa, where she talks digital shop with all the movers and shakers across the industry. Right, Corinne?
That's right. That's right. It's been a lot of fun. So thanks so much for the opportunity to contribute here on Supply Chain Now.
You bet. We wouldn't miss it. And you're, I think you're approaching, roughly how many episodes have we done already on TekTok?
So we've got 42 published and then
Wow.
a few more that are in the works.
Greg, how about that? 42. That is, most podcasts don't get past like 11 or 12 episodes, right?
I was going to say that's almost 4 times the average, right?
Oh my goodness. I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, you're an old pro now. I mean, yeah.
That's right. Mover
It
and
has
shaker.
gotten easier.
Young pro. You're
It
young
has,
pro.
Thank you for switching the descriptive there,
Yeah.
Greg. Your check is in the mail.
It is the TekTok edition of Supply Chain Buzz. So we got some great story to talk about. But folks, we want to hear from you, right? Give us your take on what we're talking about. We're going to share as many comments as we can over the next hour. So buckle up and get ready, because we definitely want to hear from you too. Now,
Catherine calling it Trek Talk. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't. Well, speaking
that was
of
a quippy one, I think, I don't know what you all think, but we've had some of our behind the scenes folk on the show before. I think
Yes.
Catherine would be a heck of a lot of fun to have on the show.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Look out, Catherine. They're coming for you.
Yeah. Man, once we've mentioned it to the audience, nobody escapes.
Well, speaking of, we're going to share a couple events here in just a minute, but let's go ahead and Clay Phillips, the Diesel, is with us here today. Welcome all. Happy Buzz Day. Clay, appreciate what you do. As Greg pointed out, big thanks and hello to Amanda, Catherine, Chantel, and more, the whole production team that helps us make this happen all the time. Josh Goody is tuned in. Happy Monday, he says, Corinne and Greg, from a sunny 72-degree Seattle with matching humidity.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
I got to tell you, I'm envious. I don't know about you all, but 72 sounds pretty tasty right now, doesn't it?
Josh, we got to have pictures. We got to give us a great picture of where you are in Seattle and send that to us. We want to share that on a future episode of The Buzz. I mentioned Catherine. Catherine says, happy Monday all. Jonathan's back with us. Jonathan, How you doing? He hails from Louisiana. Good morning to you as well. Shelly Phillips is back in the house with us. Good morning from sunny Colorado, she says. We got to get a picture of that too, right, Corinne and Greg?
Right. Especially now, man, if you're up in the mountains, it's beautiful up there. And they're already starting to look towards winter, right? The north rim of the Grand Canyon is closed. It's really? Already, the threat of snow is already there.
Huh.
Very strange. You don't think of it being that.
No, summer is very short. When I lived in Denver, I learned that, and that the weather can change very quickly.
No kidding.
In Colorado, you can go from, nearly 100 degrees to the very next day, snow or sleet.
Okay.
So it's pretty shocking.
All right. So the gauntlet's been thrown down. Shelly and Josh, y'all got to send some pictures. Kanchan tuned in from India via LinkedIn. Great to have you here today. Let me know if I didn't get your first name right. We try to get everybody's names right. I can butcher them from time to time, but great to have you here. David Glover, feels like fall here in southern Minnesota. Happy Monday all via LinkedIn. Great to have you here with us, David. One of our
We may have already missed the 2 weeks of summer in Minnesota.
Right. One of our faves, Karin and Greg. Donna Krejci is in the cheap seats via LinkedIn. Hello, Scott, Greg, and Karin. Happy Monday. Great to see you, Donna. And by the way, she has a surprise birthday party for her daughter, Allison, who co-hosts some of the shows here, Karin and Greg.
How did it go? I want to know how it went.
So I've only exchanged a couple quick emails with Donna. But what Donna did is, without telling Allison, she was able to bring in lots of her aunts and uncles and cousins and friends, and they all surprised her Friday night for her big birthday. So Donna, that is so awesome. Hope you all had a great weekend.
I hope Allison likes surprises. I'm thinking, considering her role, maybe not so much.
Maybe not so much. That's right. Muhammad from Malaysia is tuned in via LinkedIn. Great to see you here today. Looking forward to your perspective.
Beautiful country. I love Malaysia.
Oh, man. That'd be awesome to visit. Parasham, regardless, hello. Welcome in via YouTube. That's an easy channel to view each and every Monday at 12 noon. And let's see. We got some other folks. Natalie's back with us. Natalie says, a cool climate sound nice as I sit in Charlotte, waiting for a trip to Charleston, South Carolina. How about that?
Man, buckle your seatbelt, Natalie, because when you get to Charleston, you're going to learn what humidity is.
Yeah. That's right. That is right. Sophia, the rock and roll star, is back with us.
Whoa.
Corinne, I would definitely loop her in. You see the movers and shakers you're always talking about. Sophia fits right in there, right?
She certainly does. Sophia, it's been a while. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Yeah, let's hear what she's up to.
That's right.
And
Sophia.
where?
And where, yes.
Give us an update, Sophia.
Where is she moving and shaking in the supply chain?
That's right.
Sharon is tuned in from the United Kingdom, sending a big hello. Best weather today. Cool. Finally, Sharon. That
is great news.
That is great news. So from our entire Supply Chain Now family, wishing you and all of our friends in the UK, across the UK, much cooler weather. So that's been a tough couple weeks to follow.
Have either of you been in England for a heat wave before?
I have. And I actually witnessed a supply chain disruption. All of the coffee shops, of course, had switched to iced coffee. And Greg, there was a shortage on ice.
Wow.
So of course, because there isn't much use for ice in England, right?
Well, this was in the summer. So it was, I can't remember if it was the end of July or early August, but there were lines outside of most of the coffee retailers that were, kind of wrapped around the block. And it was because their ice machines could not keep pace with people ordering iced coffee versus hot coffee.
Wow. Okay.
I was in Maidstone, which is east of London, far east of London, and had stayed in this one particular hotel 7 or 8 times. Didn't realize it didn't have air conditioning until it was 103 degrees, and then got there a day early to get prepared. Spent the whole day up the hill at the Chiltern Hundreds pub, working, eating outstanding Thai food, by the way, and maybe having a beverage or two too many. Yes.
All right. So join us next week for Greg and Karin's travel
That's
adventures.
Right. Travels in a heat wave. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Two more quick comments, and we're going to jump into our first story. So Natalie says, Charleston's a favorite spot. The humidity just means a different hairstyle. Think Monica on Friends. I love that, Natalie.
So true.
And Sophia says, still in Guadalajara, but I definitely need to go visit you all in Atlanta. Come on up. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, wait till it cools down, though, Sophia.
That is right. And Sophia's got a tip here. My advice to survive a heat wave is actually drinking hot coffee. You raise your body temperature, and the external temperature will feel cooler.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. All right. So
Sophia, that sounds like a marketing opportunity.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, hey, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. And Sharon is confirming what you shared. Karin is correct. Ice also sold for 3 times its normal price in some places, as you were sharing your experience, Karin. Thank you for that, Sharon. And most importantly, it's so great to see the UK getting some relief here lately.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome everybody. Looking forward to hearing y'all's take on what we're talking about here today. Really quick, we got 3 events we're going to share really quick here. The first one is we're honored to be part of this Veterans and Logistics event hosted by Redwood Logistics tomorrow. That is at 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern Time. It's about a 90-minute webinar. You got to register. We'll drop the link in the comments. But if you're a veteran or a military member or family member that is interested in the logistics space, in particular, join us for this event. We're going to talk on Kathy is Mara Robertson. What a great get is that? She's going to offer logistics trends for the first 30 minutes. Steve Rose and a Marine vet and a Navy vet are going to join and share about their transition experiences, including some best practices. And then Dr. Rhonda, one of our favorites here, is going to talk about, how can you balance that mental health and wellness angle. So join us. You got to register, but join us, and you've got the links in the comments. And then really quick webinar. Our next webinar is August 2nd. 3 ways to stay afloat through the supply chain crisis, a distributor story. Greg has talked about how that can be a really unique aspect of industry. Join us for that August 2nd, special time at 11:30 Eastern Time. And then finally, we got James Malley and the Packard team, the heavy-hitting Packard team, Greg, back with us. He's bringing a little-known supply chain mover and shaker, Stored. So they're back with us August 10th at 12 noon, talking about the ripple effect of shipping less air.
Funny how circular that is, because that's something that distributors everyone always tries to do, is ship less air. So
yes,
indeed,
ship less air.
There's a company name there.
Yeah.
All right. Really quick, Eric, great to have you here from Ecuador. Looking forward to hearing your take on what we talk about here today. There via LinkedIn. Josh is confirming the price hike of ice. That's going to be an early theme here. That hefty price of ice globally, maybe, especially in the UK. All right. So let's get down to business. So I want to start, Karin and Greg. We'll pull up our first graphic here because I want to start with a really interesting take on an article from Supply Chain Dial that Greg gave last week. He was talking about some of his perspective on this article that focused on how supply chain disruption has impacted consumer buying patterns. He shared some of his, and then he got a lot of responses from across the market from folks sharing theirs. So, Greg, tell us more, and I think we're going to drop the link to it in the comments.
Yeah, what's really cool about this article is it was really a roundup of other articles about how companies had changed their policies, their supply chain and procurement practices, if not policies, to adapt to shortages and outages and disruptions and all of these things. And what it made me think was all of that is ultimately impacted by the consumer and how the consumer makes their decisions and their choices in these disruptive times. So what I wanted to do was kind of explore how people had changed their patterns of purchasing and how it had impacted them. I relate a couple stories of my own. I've experienced some quality issues that have forced me to make some other brand choices, availability issues, of course, and honestly made one switch in terms of candy that I'm really glad I went back to, because I had forgotten how much I love the whatchamacallit bar. I think we talked a little bit about this one day last week, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
mostly the whatchamacallit bar. That's all we really talked about.
Right. Well, folks, you got to check it out. Let us know what preferences, how supply chain has shaped yours. And Karin, I'm coming to get your take next, but it's really interesting what Greg just painted. Consumers, supply chains react to what consumers want, and so then supply chains do what they do, and then what emerges, warts and all, makes consumers adjust their buying patterns and behaviors and preferences again. So it's a really interesting cycle. But Karin, what did this make you think of? Your take? Have any of your preferences or patterns changed?
Well, my personal preferences and patterns have changed a little bit. I've actually seen service drop off in recent months, where in the midst of the pandemic, it seemed like it was better. With home delivery and different things. So I've actually noticed that delivery aspect being different, or the e-commerce providers or retailers not doing as well in notifying me as a consumer when things are going to be late, right? It's one thing to expect the date that you got when you placed your order. And if there's a change, I'm a big one for just let me know there's a change. Otherwise, I'm looking for the delivery. So I have seen personally a couple of different retailers that are direct to consumer dropping the ball a little bit.
Right. That's a great point. And I think one of the things, Greg, I responded to you there in your summary. Yeah. When I think of like the items we purchase, at least I purchased at the grocery store, I'm real basic. And so most of those preferences haven't changed or habits or whatever. But as Karin points out, one of the things certainly over the last, call it 2 years, is I think our expectations, in particular, eating out, and especially as we're all kind of coming back and labor's tough for everybody, finding good people, workers is tough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think our expectations of, service time, wait time, certainly we expect to pay more. I think that's probably where I think subconsciously, Greg, maybe where some of our expectations have shifted, at least in the Luton household. But Greg, I'll give you the final word here on this first topic.
Yeah, I think that is definitely true, because inflation has impacted people's decision-making, right? Availability, Karin, service level, to your point, and quality. I mean, look, I think I'm basic. I was interested by your comment there, because I guess I think I'm basic, right? I just like my rice checks, but I don't like my rice checks mixed with corn checks. And I think I don't know if I relayed this whole story, but several times I bought the brand of checks, and I can tell they have not adequately cleared the line or cleaned the line. I don't think dirty, but they've left enough residue from the prior run that it tastes like rice and corn checks mixed, and I hate that. Yep. So thankfully, whoever makes these things, probably also General Mills for Kroger, whatever is happening there, the quality is much, much better. And I'm also, and now think about this also. I mean, this is I'm not taking a shot at General Mills. This is just a fact, right? Now I've realized I can have as good, or at least in this moment, better quality for a third of the price.
Yeah.
Will I ever go back to checks?
Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't know.
So that's the private label brand that you're seeing better quality on. That's really interesting, Greg, because I think we're going to continue to see consumers trying some of the private label brands, whether it's from availability, quality, price pressure,
most likely price,
inflation,
right?
But these are times like these when we as consumers do make switches. And if we find comparable quality for a lower price, you may lose a customer.
That's right. Well, you know what?
Tell you, there are a couple brands that have really stood out. Entenmann's, those chocolate covered donuts. Oh my gosh. I'm totally addicted to those things, and their quality has maintained and availability is maintained throughout. And there are others, of course, but it's funny. It's almost the exception that proves the rule, that there are some companies who've maintained availability and quality, and to some extent price. Think about Costco. Their CEO, when asked if he would ever raise the price of their $1.50 hot dog and soda combination, said flatly no.
Really? How about that?
Well, I wasn't aware of that. I know I'm aware now. My college age son actually mentioned that to me, that it has been and will always be $1.50. I'm like, oh, that's crazy talk. So it's interesting to hear you say the exact same thing. Because that seems really inexpensive for that combo.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, that, and I can't, it's just outside of my reach here, Greg and Karin. my wastebasket because I was going to ask you to where the best place to put rice checks are. And I can't quite use that prop because they all belong in the trash, Greg. That is terrible cereal.
You don't like it at all?
You can pick on General Mills all you want. They got a plant around the corner here in Covington, Georgia, but
man, they're coming to get you.
They don't make Fruity Pebbles, and that's been for all time my favorite cereal. You got to eat it real quick because it gets soggy. But Post makes Fruity Pebbles, and yes, Sophia is sharing the observation that yes, Greg has a sweet tooth, maybe sweet teeth.
I'm lucky to have teeth, honestly.
That's right. All right. Hey, really quick, some other great comments here. Going back to shipping air, Jonathan says, I believe air is average around 4% of the total transportation spend. I love that.
Some expensive air. Think about that.
Let's see here. Muhammad is talking about consumers being sensitive to the sustainability agenda, i.e. the Paris Agreement 2050, especially on climate change and the shortage of foods around the world. That's certainly, I think a lot of folks are taking that into consideration when it comes to buying patterns. Consumers are certainly much more informed, as we all know. It's a great point, Muhammad. Peter Bolay all night and all day. Where you been? We missed you.
Working for a living. Again, I don't know. He cannot enjoy retirement. He keeps working.
He's got too much to give, Karin and Greg. He says he's been absent for a while, learning a lot of new things with his new role with Optimum Strategies. So, PB, hope this finds you well, and appreciate the update. Let us know what you're thinking on what we're talking about here today. He does say put Ovaltine on rice checks. It's going to taste 100% better. How about that, Greg?
That's like I think that was like a healthy chocolate drink, right? I've seen the commercials.
Never tried it. From the Christmas Story, right? Ovaltine, the code. He was trying to crack the code. Remember that? I'm pretty sure that was an Ovaltine commercial, but hey, I digress a bit. All right, one final comment from Natalie, and we're going to keep trucking. Natalie says, quality of digital purchases have made me more aware of sellers and shippers. If I don't recognize them, I'm not going to chance the purchase rather.
Funny she says that. I made what may have been a risky purchase yesterday, and we'll find out by Thursday. I'll let you know when I find out.
Well, hey, really quick, Karin and Greg, looking at the team chat, kind of behind the scenes. Amanda loves checks. Catherine loves rice checks. So I might be outnumbered by far here. But all right. So, hey, if you do, a little fun question, since we're all talking cereal and we all probably have our own personal preferences, drop your favorite cereal into the chat. Let's see who's got where the common threads come from. Russ Thorne, Karin, our dear friend Russ Thorne, aka the Judge.
Russ. Yes.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine, he says, straight from the commercial.
Yep, clearly a fan.
I didn't know Russ was a paid spokesman for Ovaltine, Karin. And
didn't know Ovaltine still existed. Does it?
Okay.
Somebody look it up and let us know.
Yeah,
please.
Check that out. Hey, really quick up front, we were talking about this supply chain disruption, change buying patterns in the first half of 2022. Great article via Supply Chain Dive. And we also linked to Greg's supply chain summary, where we'd love to get your take. That's earlier in the comments. But moving right along, Karin, in our second article, we're talking about research data that really explores 11 technologies that are truly shaping, transforming, you name it, global supply chains. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, this was some really good research done by Material Handling and Deloitte. And what I took away from it is that we are moving from evolution, so small incremental changes, to really revolution. And it is probably no surprise to our Supply Chain Now audience, but many of these changes that have happened as a result of the global pandemic are going to stick.
Yep.
However, some of the adoption rates are not quite as high as anticipated. And so I do think that we need to take a good hard look at keeping that momentum going. So if we get investment in digital initiatives, it's up to us as supply chain leaders to make sure we get through that messy middle and gaining traction on those improvement initiatives. So just a little encouragement there. But the global pandemic, so 87% of the respondents, yeah, you've got that chart here, 87% said that these changes are going to be altered strategically, permanently for their businesses. And excuse me, did I say 87%? And then 78% said that it actually accelerated their transformations as a result of the pandemic. However, Greg, did you see, as you went through some of that data, it shows we had high hopes and we've got lower adoption rates.
Yeah, astounding, isn't it?
It is. But when you look at their 5-year projection, so if you guys are watching the video here, you'll see that that's stacked pretty high, and the 5-year adoption rates in all 11 areas are really, really aggressive. But some of the things that stood out to me is the areas of technology investment. So a few of these won't be surprises to our audience here, but you'll see things like cloud computing. And what surprised me is security didn't show up on that top 11 list. I don't know if that's getting rolled into leveraging cloud computing, right? Because that's been a big motivator for companies to get better protection of their data, their plans, their collaboration with trading partners. Lots of investment in sensors, automatic ID, Internet of Things. And I think that is going to continue. So I'm excited to see that and to see the impact of process automation as well as robotic automation, because I do think automation as a theme is going to be really important, because Greg, as you know, we've got a talent shortage, and there are 2 jobs for every skilled resource available. And I think that is going to continue well into 2030. So that's good news for our team here of supply chain movers and shakers around the globe, because that means you're going to have lots of opportunity to contribute in meaningful ways. But at the same time, it really pushes the envelope on needing some of that optimization and automation to be realized in your business. So don't get stuck in the messy middle. Continue to push through on the adoption of those tech trends, and reap the rewards of that hard work and those investments.
A lot of good stuff there. A lot of stuff to dive into. We need a couple hours here, but Greg, your quick take.
Well, to the point, Karin, you made, there were a couple things that just astounded me, and that is that even though we talk a lot about tech adoption, in the last year, tech adoption went down in all 11 of those categories. And since 2016, all of the top currently utilized categories, they've all gone down since 2016, which tells me that we're behind the curve for a couple of reasons. One, we're always subject to budget, and that was mentioned several times by the survey participants, that they didn't feel like they had enough budget on some of these products. The other thing that management leaders were concerned about was, to Karin's point, they don't feel like they have the people. And Karin, if I had just a nickel for every time I've heard that when attempting to get a company to implement technology, I don't think our people can handle it. We don't have enough people, whatever. We'd all be billionaires.
We'd all be buying Twitter,
right,
or something else,
right, or taking it private or something. But I think that as you said, a lot of the newer technologies are finally starting to take hold, and they're starting to grow overall, and have grown overall in the past 6 years. 6 years since 2016. That's the window that this analyzed, right?
Almost it is 7. Indeed, yeah. And I think, when you look at some of the motivators, it's that they recognize they need new business models or new operating models, right?
Yep.
And we can't exchange what we want in the long term, which are those new efficient models, for what's easy today. And that happens, right? So it's easier for me to just, do it in the Excel spreadsheet that I'm doing it in today. And that just delays that benefit. I mean, that just pushes that opportunity down the road. And when that happens, we've got to go back and resell the initiative internally, right? We've made an investment, and it just slows the adoption. And so I think you've got to stay focused. You've got to see those through, get out of that kind of messy middle, and you're going to approach it as a learning opportunity.
It's easier to wallow in mud, is what you're saying,
yes,
Karin.
Yeah. Running, running in quicksand, right?
Yeah, companies truly do. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Not always the case.
Right.
It still could kill you, but it just kills you really slowly.
Right.
And I think, there's a couple things here. One is we need to confess that there are jobs that human beings will never, ever take again. Or they will take in very, very low measure, and we just need to automate them. I think automation and autonomous is a huge part of the future of supply chain.
Yep.
And the other is that people, technologists who are building technologies, these technologies that take all this customization and all these hundreds of hours, thousands of hours to implement, they need to make technology more app-like. They need to make it more easily adoptable so that people who are used to easily adoptable technology, which are Gen Xers, Gen Yers, and Gen Zers, that they can easily adopt technology. And the capability with data and the advancement of technology exists today to do that. And when we come to those and capitalize on those two recognitions, things will change dramatically, because there are ways to solve this problem, even if you don't have, and especially if you don't have faith in your people or enough people. And those are two of the biggest problems that I have seen in supply chain forever.
Well, Scott, one quick thought. In doing that, you can't keep doing 100% of what your day job is if you're involved or engaged in a transformation initiative, right? And that's where this burnout happens, and we're taking these valuable resources and we're just overloading them. And they want to make the changes. They just don't have the time in their calendar to do that and focus on what's next and how do we help drive that transformation. So I do think that is something that's not just happening today. It has happened, Greg, as you said, for decades in the marketplace.
Yeah.
All right. So we got lots of comments we're going to get to here in a second.
Including about food, I bet.
How'd you know? But two quick thoughts from, again, we're talking about this. It was actually MHI data that Supply Chain Dive reported on. I've got a couple of quick graphics here I'll share. But one bit of a surprise, at least to me, when it came to the robotics automation section, according to participants, only 39% of them said that it has the potential to create a competitive advantage. I thought that was way too low. And then secondly, I think something that we all expected to see that the research showed is that when it comes to blockchain, only 20% of respondents cited a lack of understanding the technology as a hindrance. And that was the highest figure in terms of that lack of understanding out of all 11 technologies. And that parrots, at least for me, every single blockchain conversation I think we've had on here and everywhere else.
But your contention is you think lack of understanding is a much bigger percentage.
No, going back to on robotics and automation, that only 39%, I think that surprised me. I thought that point would be much higher. It doesn't mean that you can get to it today, kind of to what both of you are speaking to earlier, but to ignore the impact it can have on an operation, on an organization, on your competitive advantage, for your people, to make their jobs easier, to serve your consumers, your customers better. I think that to see that figure was only 39% was a big surprise for me.
You know what I think about that number? I actually thought quite the opposite, but I realize your point is probably dead on. I thought of it as more people realizing that automation is now table stakes. It's not a competitive advantage or differentiator. You're behind if you're not automating. And I wonder if that's not the perspective that they have. I think it's far more likely what you said, Scott, that people don't see it as an advantage and therefore aren't engaging in it. But
it's already assumed
not an advantage.
Yeah,
but you are at a distinct disadvantage if you are not getting there.
Agreed.
Right.
And to your point, it might be kind of like what Karin said about cybersecurity. It's already kind of assumed it's in there.
Yeah.
So it'd be, I've only reviewed the Supply Chain Dive article that kind of covers the key takeaways. I might have to sign up and get it and download the actual data with all of their. I'm sure there's probably a couple pages on the front end of clarifications and disclaimers and whatnot. But it's a fascinating piece of information. And Karin, I appreciate you bringing it to us and giving it your take here on the TekTok version of the Supply Chain Buzz. Your final word, Karin.
So yeah, I agree. The report is actually really good. The research report. If any of our listeners want to download that, I would encourage you to do so. My last thought is, Greg, I was where you are in the robotics adoption. I was thinking it was table stakes, but I like Scott's perspective on it. I think you're right. I think Scott is probably on point.
That's far more likely, isn't it?
Blockchain is that we're not yet seeing the benefits of the commercial impact on blockchain, but it's still lots of education. And I want to encourage our listeners to listen to the TekTok episode that was done with the one and only Kevin L. Jackson on blockchain basics.
Yeah.
So that's episode 739. It's on the Supply Chain Now website, or you can link to it wherever you get your podcast. But Kevin does a really good job of taking us through just some of those basics so that you can be much more conversational inside your teams on where you might be able to adopt and leverage blockchain to make a competitive advantage.
That's a great call out. And let's, Amanda, Catherine, if we can, let's drop the direct link to that episode, at least the episode page in the comments, because it's a great educational piece to level set what's going on in the with blockchain technology. Okay, we've got a lot to catch up on, Greg and Karin. We've got one more story we're going to be reporting on, but let's catch up on comments, okay? So buckle up, because it's going to be a little bit here. Let's go way back to the cereal portion, because I think everyone loves talking their favorite cereals and whatnot. Let's see. Natalie, big fan of Golden Grams.
Tasty.
I remember those Golden Graham commercials in the 80s. Y'all remember that? They were skateboarding and playing basketball. It could have been a
Golden Grams that old? I thought my kids introduced me to Golden Grams. Holy mackerel.
I don't know.
Wow.
I guess. Peter Bollet, I love how he prefaces this. At one time, Captain Crunch. See, when I say Fruity Pebbles, it's not at one time.
You mean now?
Eat them today. They're so, and I don't eat them as much as I would like. But
I can feel my teeth rotting when I eat Captain Crunch, but I still love it.
That was my brother's favorite growing up.
Really?
Crunch.
God, it is so delicious. It is.
Jonathan says Reese's Puffs. We have to check that out. Peter says Ovaltine is very alive and well in Canada. It's still a thing. Grayson, I don't know how you Cheerios. Big fan of Cheerios. He says, I don't get Cheerios, and I'm one of the few because they're very popular globally. There's like 20 different brands, so clearly there's a big demanding market. And Greg, I saw you kind of put your head in your hands. I guess you're a Cheerios fan.
If I'm not eating a sweet cereal, it's going to be Cheerios. Though I have to tell you, that's another cereal that I've stopped buying because I can taste the quality difference. I wonder if Grayson, as a big fan, has noticed any difference in flavor. So,
Grayson, tune in. Corinne?
Greg, I'm going to take you back to your article that you were talking about, because one of the strategies for those shortages is reformulation.
Yes, that's right.
And so I think that you're hitting on that without even recognizing it.
Yeah.
I think that we're seeing a lot of reformulation in our, packaged food goods in the industry, and it is changing taste or texture or selection as well.
Yeah, you're dead on. That's a good call out, Corinne. They must not have done it on the whatchamacallit, or maybe they did, and it's even better ingredients because it is so tasty. It's better than I remember.
I've heard of a whatchamacallit, so I'm going to try that one.
Oh, I definitely remember that, and they had some legendary commercials back in the day too. I'm
an old school whatchamacallit fan, Scott. I don't know if you even remember this. You might have been a baby when this was happening. Whatchamacallit didn't used to have caramel in it. It used to just be chocolate over peanut butter covered Rice Krispies or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they added caramel to it, and I didn't like it as much. Now I've learned to accept it.
Man, okay. Well, by the way, Amanda says in the team chat, private team chat, that, quote, Fruity Pebbles are trash, Scott, end quote. So that's funny. All right. So let's get to the more serious. So Peter Bole's big fan of Frosted Flakes.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. Hello, Ishmael from Egypt, who's working on his PhD. It's wonderful. Great to have you here. And then we get down to some more work-related. What we're here for.
Good.
So Muhammad's got a couple of great points here. First off, he agrees with Karin, the most crucial to ensure the success and sustainability on digital. I can never say this word. Digitalization transformation is about the actual return on investment from the technology adoption. It is important, as he says, to ensure the new technology and supply chain really meets the objectives. That's a great point. Very well said, Muhammad. And let's see here. Natalie, going back to what we both were speaking to. This is good about getting, doing the work while you're transforming the work. She says a friend described this path as the hell glory cycle. Very paints quite a picture there, Natalie. Let's see here. Peter's weighing in kind of on Muhammad's earlier comment about how you got to clearly define your requirements prior to engaging in solution discussion. Very few of them, maybe. Very few of them meet your basic needs and need alterations that will drive costs upwards. Well said, Peter.
Can I amend that slightly?
Please, yeah.
Because I think this is what Peter's saying also, and that is, don't define what the solution should do. Define the outcome that the solution should deliver. Because too many companies, when they implement a technology, they say, I want it to do X, Y, and Z. What they ought to say is, I want the outcome to be X, our current outcome, times 2.
Yep.
And if they would do that, most technology and implementation companies can get them there. Where these technology implementations tend to derail is where companies say, this is how we want to do it.
Yep.
Well said. Well said. I want to get, Peter also mentions, he's got a couple of things. I'm going to choose this one though. No code, coupled with artificial intelligence. Karin, Greg, any thoughts here, especially on the no code side?
Well, so, I mean, artificial intelligence is real and it's coming and it's getting wrapped into all of the leading solutions in different areas. I think that, having that delivered in a cloud gets you closer. But even with no code, with the ability to connect and build, if you will, your capabilities, you've got to be seeing that full process through, as Greg said, what that outcome is, focused on, that outcome, and then figuring out how it starts to be delivered and how you leverage your available technology to do that. I love the story around no code. I'm just not seeing it running large, complex businesses yet today.
Oh, Karin, I know you're pushing an important button with Greg on your last comment there. Greg, quick comment on no code.
Yeah, 2 things. AI and no code have the high probability of being misapplied, right? Yep. AI, for instance, my beef with how we postcast instead of forecast these days. AI helps you do dumb things faster. And no code allows people who want A, B, and C instead of outcome X times 2 to make sure A, B, and C happen. And I think that's the real risk is having completely unqualified people to define and scope a process toward an outcome, giving them the ability to do that. Now, I think for visibility of data that is very highly customized to a particular role, to Karin's point, something a little bit more contained. I think we have to confess that not everybody in every company knows how to solve a problem effectively. That's why there are people who do it for a profession and get paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour. So I think that's not to say that no code and AI are not applicable. Of course they are. But it's like giving a 4-year-old a nuclear weapon and asking them to save the earth in some cases, right?
All right. Along those lines, I want to share this comment here from Jonathan. Greg is cracking me up while I'm forecasting. So, Greg, don't be interfering with the good value-driven work that Jonathan's doing. All right. Muhammad says blockchain is the future.
I'm sure if he's forecasting right now, he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Probably
right? He knows. He's probably going, gosh, like I did many years ago. I never really thought about it this way. We are, right?
Muhammad's talking about blockchain is the future integrity of the world of business. That's a great point there. Certainly one of the big aims.
Therefore, in many cases, being issued by many companies and people who don't want the scrutiny that or the accountability that blockchain provides. And that's part of the problem with blockchain is it provides so much accountability and scrutiny in a process where there is unquestionably, and I know this from personal experience, a lot of bad actors doing a lot of bad things.
So why don't we make the next practical use case of blockchain? Let's apply it to Washington, D.C. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I don't know if you know
that sunshine in.
There is a Georgia Tech professor trying to use blockchain to assure election integrity, for instance.
Yes.
And he is getting an incredible amount of pushback from the political parties because there is advantage to both political parties to that lack of integrity.
Well, and for me, it's, if I can continue my poor joke, beyond elections, it's the budgeting, it's lobbying, it's the whole mechanism, it's the whole ecosystem. Let's pour some sunshine into it all and watch different things scurry. But and Greg, that is very apolitical to your point. It's just it's the system. Yeah. But putting that aside, I want to share. So share this quick comment here from Sophia, and then we got to segue to our third story. But Sophia says she's with Peter here. She's seen higher resistance to change when experiencing digital transformation led by an external partner.
Yeah, that's always going to happen.
Right. Sometimes, a lot of times that can be, you're doing it to the team rather than with the team when it's led by that external partner. So Sophia, great call out.
Excellent point. You have to do that the right way. And as a wise friend of mine also said,
yes,
when this sort of change is occurring in your company, you either need to change your people or change your people.
I thought you were looking for a prop there, Greg. I'm like, okay.
Well, what I'm looking for is a power cord because I just realized that.
Oh, we're about to lose Greg. But Karin, one quick comment here. So I was talking to the team on Slack, right? We do a lot of Slack in here at Supply Chain now, Karin and Greg. Yeah. And I was talking about one process or one aspect of the business here that we're really about to transform, right? And so I was kind of encouraging one of our team members to keep rowing because we're about to put an Evinrude on the back of that boat. And the response was, I had to look up what Evinrude was. But okay, now I'm with you. So I love you. I won't name names, but I love that response, and I love the person behind it. So, okay.
Well, obviously, we need to get more of our people to the lake, Scott.
I was going to say, they didn't grow up on the water.
We need a team building exercise at the lake.
That's right. That's right. By the way, Sophia says Greg is a serial sommelier. So, all right. So we got to, hang on a second.
Also ketchup.
There's so many great comments.
But not together, Greg, right?
No, never.
Okay.
We can't get to all these great comments. Gloria Mar says, put those requirements in writing, develop a great RFP, have others look at your process with a different mindset so they can also suggest a solution. Gloria Mar, you're talking our language. Really appreciate you sharing. Okay. We've got to get to our final story here today. We got 12:48. We're going to be coming down the home stretch fast and furiously. And we want to talk about U.S. Bank's freight payment index. So let me pull up my notes here. So to level set a little bit, the most recent, this thing comes out quarterly, and it's focused on, U.S. Bank handles billions of dollars of transactions.
37 billion, right?
Yes, sir. You took my data point right from me, Greg.
I thought, when we do this, usually I'm the one who says 37.
Yes, that's
sorry.
So primarily, that's where the data's come from. Because as Greg points out, $37 billion worth of freight-related transactions that U.S. Bank handled just in 2021, right? So each quarter, they release this freight payment index, which shows its findings from the accumulation of the data. And of course, our team here pairs that data, usually led by Bobby Holland from US Bank, and we bring an executive practitioner to the conversation to, get them to share, agree and disagree with what they're seeing out in the market, right, from a practitioner standpoint. So a couple quick findings from the most recent one. Again, this is focused, Karin and Greg, on the domestic freight market, coast to coast. It's not a global freight report. So the second quarter report, shipping volumes in second quarter were up over first quarter 2022 nationally, but we're a bit off from where they were in 2021. On the other hand, as most folks might imagine, spend was up and away, up over first quarter, right? Second quarter 2022 up over first quarter of the same year, and up dramatically, almost 20% from this point last year, right? And we all have some bad actors that we're all familiar with, right? Or common conditions that we can all point to. But one quick data point, speaking of those, diesel fuel, Greg and Karin. This has been problematic for quite some time. At least last week, it was averaging $5.50 a gallon nationally, which was up 68% from the same point in time from last year. So up almost 70% per gallon. So, Greg, one more call out before I'll get your quick thoughts. We had a great discussion with our friend Donovan from the Clorox company. But to our listeners, in case you don't get this report already, it's free to sign up. We've got the link here. We'll drop the link in the comments. But what I also like about it is it breaks things up. These aren't the biggest graphics, but it breaks things up into 5 regions. So while a lot of it, there's 2 main themes. It's offering national observations, and then it drills in, offers these regional observations. But Greg, enough of me talking about it. Your thoughts?
Opportunism. I feel like I'm in Raising Arizona. On the one hand, you got opportunism, and on the other hand, you got people taking advantage.
I do declare there's been a murder.
That is unquestionably what's happening here. It is unquestionably what's happening as inflation generally peaks, as we can see, because it's earnings season for public companies. They are taking advantage of inflation and they're boosting their gross margins. And likewise, with fuel costs, that's been happening. Let me also point out that let's not try to point the finger at diesel fuel prices, because, by the way, the diesel fuel surcharges, the fuel surcharges that were instituted between 2011 and 2014 still and always have existed ever since diesel fuel reached $4.40, $4.60 in that time frame. So companies have been getting paid for diesel fuel they haven't been paying for nigh on a decade now. So it's not diesel fuel. Nigh on. Sorry. It's not diesel fuel that's causing this. It is unquestionably opportunism that is causing this. You can tell because the downturn in shipments and the incredible, unbelievable uplift, as you said, in spend.
Okay. So, Karin, in your best Southern drawl, no, I'm not kidding. I'm not make you do that like Greg. Greg so eloquently laid out your thoughts, though, on for the freight markets, this report, you name it.
Well, I was happy to see that the Midwest and Northeast have recovered some of what they lost over Q1 and Q2 over the last 3 quarters. And
because we're building cars again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. I also think we're heading in, as we get further into Q3, we're going to be moving goods for holiday season. So we're going to see increased demand, which is going to put more pressure on pricing and availability as well. So we do need, even though diesel fuel is not the full picture, the full reason, I think Greg obviously knows a lot about that. It is a factor that is contributing to the shipper's cost to move those goods to market. And we're going to see that combined with higher demand again. And, it's just it's another thing that has to be modeled in your supply chain solutions to help you make the best decision available.
More upward pressure.
Yes. Right. And consumers will be picking up a lot more of the cost, far beyond diesel fuel. Going back to all kinds of raw goods, and their increase in pricing and the increase in activity, which Karin, you're pointing to. Greg, a couple of things we spoke to last week on the live stream as we released the data and had the chat with Donovan and Bobby. Port of LA and Long Beach both set records for the busiest month of July in their history.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of activity, you look at a variety of third-party data points. Manufacturing activity expanded here in the country, coast to coast, in all 3 months of the second quarter. So activity's up. Folks are getting ready for the peak. Okay, Greg, and by the way, folks, again, y'all can download this for free. It's a well-written report, lots of good data. It's freight.usbank.com, and you can check us out as we usually the day or maybe the day after it's released. We have Bobby Holland on from US Bank, and then a senior practitioner to speak to what they're seeing. And sometimes, Greg, it doesn't, the data and what the operations are seeing, that doesn't line up. A lot of times,
but I got to tell you, this latest episode with Donovan, he really went deep on how they use it at Clorox. And I think it's worth seeing that particular episode, not only because of the shocking nature of because remember, the last time we saw the freight index, we were speculating on a freight recession,
right?
And instead, precisely the opposite happened in an incredible measure. So I think that's worth seeing, but also how Donovan talks about how his company uses the freight index will give companies an idea as to how to use it. Right?
Yep. Well said. Y'all check that out, and we'll have the replay of our live stream available very soon. Speaking of great content, helpful content that will put you in a better position and to make better decisions and grow and lead better, Greg, let's talk about, Karin, what's been going on at the award-winning, globally recognized TekTok Digital Supply Chain Podcast. I've got the graphic from the most recent episode where Greg and Karin, if there's already a best of show, you've been around for quite some time. So, Karin, tell us about the most recent episode and what's coming next.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's just been such a busy spring that we felt like we needed to pull out kind of a best of best because people have been super busy and lots of great insights. So I would encourage, if you're new to TekTok, start here, and that might direct you to a couple of other episodes that you're interested in. And Scott, I would be remiss if I didn't invite our listeners to subscribe to TekTok. That's TekTok, Digital Supply Chain, and you can find us with Supply Chain Now. So lots of good things on the horizon as well, in new episodes coming up with intelligent supply chain, the rebirth of, Greg, are you ready for this? CPFR. So,
are you serious?
Collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. I am seeing a re-emergence of collaboration. So multi-enterprise collaboration. So some interesting insights that'll be coming through in that episode.
That's fantastic. At least we're not reinventing the wheel, Karin, right? I mean, we have a great framework in CPFR to build on from that vertical integration between companies. That's fantastic.
Yep. So stay tuned. And that next episode will drop. When does that drop? This week or next week, Karin?
We've got a next episode dropping this week, and then on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. So y'all check that out. You can get TekTok, TekTok, Digital Supply Chain Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Peter Bollet, it was great to have you here today. I appreciate your feedback here. He says, missed you all. Really needed to hear your voices and wisdom that comes with it. Peter, I'm one of those speaking here, right? Man, he's lumping me into the wisdom bucket. I love that.
I think you had probably the best observation in regards to all that today. Yeah.
Well, this is a fun episode. Yeah, I shared with the world my love of Fruity Pebbles. So
that too.
Let's talk. All right.
I was thinking robotics, but of course.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Karin. Yeah.
Greg and Karin, a ton of lots of good fun here today. The TekTok version of the Supply Chain Buzz. But Greg, before we wrap up, and Sophia, hey, thanks for this comment. We've missed both of y'all.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. And it's and everyone, there's so many different streams, podcasts, webinars, virtual events, in-person events. It's all demanding of our time and attention. But Sophia and Peter, really great to have both of y'all and everyone else in the comments, Muhammad and Jonathan and many others that were made great points. Russ, great to see you here today. But Sophia says Peter Bollet ×2. I love that. All right. So Greg, one of the stories we talked about today was driven by one of your supply chain summaries that you publish every Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the mornings on LinkedIn. Is that right?
That is correct. And guess what I learned from a friend of mine on LinkedIn?
What's that?
You can now enable an alert bell on your profile, which I will do shortly. But in the meantime, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. You'll be alerted whenever I post these commentaries. I try to pick an article Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and give you some sort of commentary on it to maybe give you a different perspective. Maybe even sometimes it is deeply tied to what the article is about. Sometimes it's just what it made me think about. Like Karin, the take on the 11 technologies made me think about where we ought to be focusing our attention in the marketplace, right? In the supply chain arena on technology.
We'll be looking for a Greg White content bell. So we're holding you to that, Greg.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. I gotta call my buddy.
Well, hey, what's important here, and not just with Greg's summaries, not just with Karin's TekTok episodes, is the voice of the listener, right, folks? Just like y'all did over the last hour, you brought it, whether it's on the fun side of cereal or like some of y'all were dropping, what leaders should be thinking about when it comes to digital transformation and change. That is why we're all here. So we want to hear from you more. We try to share that as much as we can. In fact, Greg and Karin, more and more, our team has been picking up the t-shirt isms that our listeners drop on these episodes, and we share those out across social. So we want to hear from you, and we want to uplift y'all's perspective. But you can connect with Greg White on LinkedIn. You can connect with Karin Bursa on LinkedIn. Make sure you tune in to their content, their episodes, and more. Karin, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you. It's great to be with you guys.
Thank you to
everyone who joined us. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And hey, one quick comment here before we sign off. Glorimar says she doesn't get to listen to us often, but love the topics, that she's interested in getting more information on the Veterans Career Fair. Glorimar, check out Veteran Voices, which is our podcast led by Mary Kate Saliva, focused on veterans transitions, topics, challenges, journeys, you name it. And reach out to our team at Amanda@SupplyChainNow, and we'll make sure you get the link for the event tomorrow. Appreciate you being here with us today. Okay, Karin, on behalf of Karin, on behalf of Greg, Amanda, Catherine, Chantel, Clay, the whole gang here, thanks for joining us. First off, very important. Thanks for bringing your voice. Greg and Karin, always a pleasure to do this. But whatever folks take away from these conversations, Greg and Karin, we got to challenge them. Hey, take action. Deeds, not words. Do good. Give forward. And be the change that's needed. We'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.